Well, let's get right into it. I mean, I think they're a better team than they were. I think they've gotten better in the first week of free agency. I really do. I mean, I look at that depth chart and I say, okay, they were looking at a defensive line that had Armstead as like the primary guy, and he's got chronic foot problems, knee problems, injury problems. He's on the wrong side of 30. I mean, he just had a lot of physical problems. And so it's like, okay. And Hargrave was underwhelming, and they needed an edge rusher opposite Bosa. And I'm just looking at what they did. I think Leonard Floyd is better than any guy the Niners have had opposite Bosa since Shanahan has been here, of course. And so I love the Floyd. I love Jordan Elliott as well because I think Jordan Elliott is really coming into his own as a run defender. And then Malik Collins was always enormously strong coming out of Nebraska. I mean, he was just, to me, I noticed his strength on film, watching his Nebraska film way back when. I mean, the guy is just one of the strongest guys in the league. So now he's actually put it together. He's been a few years in Dallas, Houston. He's moved around. I think he's a better pass rusher than he used to be. So now you got those three guys. Yatir Gross Matos is, a late blooming 6'6", 270-pound guy with an incredible body. We'll see if Chris Kacerek can turn him into something. I really love Isaac Yadam, the guy they just signed. We'll get into that in a minute. I don't love the Devondre Campbell because I just feel like, you could have done that in the draft. And the Chase Lucas, whatever. I'm kind
Special
of
teams guy.
ambivalent. Yeah, and whatever. I'd prefer to have young special teams guys with energy and speed and coming out in the draft. But whatever. If they like him, they like him. That's fine. But overall, and then when you look at the guys they've lost, they really haven't lost anybody that I thought was like, oh my God, they lost that guy. Um, they lost Armstead to Jacksonville. They lost Ray McLeod to Atlanta, Sam Darnold to Minnesota, Charlie Warner to Atlanta, Cleveland Farrell to Washington, Javon Kinlaw to the Jets. Am I missing anybody? Did Orrin Burks leave?
Oren Burks didn't leave yet.
But he's probably going to. So I mean, what's the big loss there? I mean, to me, all those guys were kind of dead weight.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll say this. We have a real big issue at linebacker, in my opinion, especially inside linebacker. We got to figure out who's going to play next to Fred. Um, by all accounts, for what they have done in free agency or what they tried to do with Eric Kendricks and then now finally landing on Devondre Campbell out of the Packers, is they don't trust. It seems as though that they don't trust D Winters in Jalen Graham. So you know, we just picked. I believe that we just signed a Demetrius Flanagan Files to another 1 year deal.
Yeah, they redid Fouls, which
Okay.
between Fouls and Burks, I would have re-signed Fouls too.
Okay. Yeah. So right now we got to see who's going to play with Fred. I like where our DBs are. I really do think that the addition of Jesus, how do you say his name? The kid out of the Saints from New Orleans. Yeah,
Isaac
Isaac
Yadam.
Yadam. Yeah, Isaac
Yadam, yeah.
Yadam. I believe that Isaac Yadam is a better acquisition than Chase Lucas, but I do feel like Chase Lucas could be somebody that could help us in a pinch, especially on special teams. He also can back up Demo. Chase Lucas is another nickel prospect that we can pick up. Malik Collins, he's going. I need to. I'm reserving judgment on this acquisition. He's a penetrating three technique where he gets after the passer. I've seen some highlights of him. He can get after the run, but it's not something that he does by trade on a consistent basis. I would have to see that from him on a regular basis. Now, Jordan Elliott, in my opinion, that's somebody who I was actually excited about. Jordan Elliott is somebody who he earned his way onto the field in Cleveland. The first 2 years that he was in Cleveland, he was benched, was a package guy used sparingly. And for the last 2 seasons he's been there, he's been kind of a linchpin as far as being one of their best staunch run defenders on the inside. And that's something that we did not have last season. So I'm excited about that. And if you really want to go pound for pound, Yatura Gross Matos, I'll take a young kid out of the second round who knows where he is on the map, i.e., he's going to play hard because he understands that he's pushing uphill. You're not going to get that out of Chase Young. I feel like at this stage of the game, if you still got to talk about effort, you're just not going to have it. And with Leonard Floyd, if you're going glass half full, you have to realize that this is pretty much the most consistent pass rusher and all around book in player that we've had across from Nick Bosa since he's been here. I mean, the D Ford experiment never worked. We tried with Charles Omenihu, which was good, but he was a stopgap. We really never had Cleveland Farrell, didn't get through a whole season. And Chase Young, he leaves much to be desired. He's not polished, in my opinion. He just, for where he is. I feel like if Chase Young was a second-round pick or a third-round pick, people would have a little bit more grace for him. But just the pedigree alone, you can't abide by it. What I will say is that, again, we've been kind of fooled into talking about the defense again because, this is the leader of our team, but we haven't really done anything on offense, but just run it back. We're bringing back the same exact offensive line. We re-signed, we tendered and re-signed Jawan Jennings. We're still trying to figure out what's going on with Brandon Ayuk, which, to be honest, he has no leverage, none. I mean, he can kick up dust, and there can be all of these reports that his agent leaks about all of this interest that he has. But at the end of the day, the Niners can franchise BA at the tune of $21 million, and then he'll for sure take a pay cut next year. Like he really doesn't have any leverage whatsoever in contract negotiation. So, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But right now, offensively, I would like to know what they're going to do at tight end. Even though we lost Charlie Warner, he made $12 million, which is crazy to me that he pulled that number. God love him, but I didn't see that coming. I feel as though we've been orbiting around that issue where we don't really have a backup or a comparable talent to George Kittle at the tight end position, and it hurts us. I think that we need another pass catcher at the position. We need somebody to kind of usher George out. And healthy competition is needed. And they swung and they missed on Cam Latu. In my opinion, he wouldn't have made the team if it wasn't for him being injured. So he didn't even really make the team as a pick. So I'd like for them to figure out ways how to pivot on offense to get stronger in areas where we kind of piecemeal our way along and we just forget about those areas. And the tight end room is one of them. Without George Kittle, that is a very lackluster group. I'd like to see some depth in the offensive line as well. I feel as though that this is the deepest offensive line draft that we've had in almost 15 years, man. This draft, there is so much value in offensive line in the third and the fourth and the fifth rounds of this draft. Developmental guys that are really good that you can get. So I'm hoping against hope that they're saying to themselves, hey, the defensive line in this year's draft leaves much to be desired. And it's true. That's true. There's really not a lot of top-end talent for pass rushers and defensive tackles in this year's draft, right? There's not a lot. And maybe the Niners are saying, let's get our draft now. Let's get our depth now on the defense side of the ball, something that hurt us throughout the season with acquisitions of Sebastian Joseph Day, Randy Gregory, and Chase Young. We don't have to do that. Let's go ahead and get these guys now. Let's engineer the position. Let's outsource and engineer the position of Eric Armstead. Well, we'll get somebody that can pass rush in Malik Collins. We'll get somebody that can stop the run in Jordan Elliott, and we'll package it, right? And then we'll go into the draft where we structure these guys with Fred Warner, who he offered to restructure. That's a great move by Fred. Kyle Juszczyk, Javon Hargraves, and George Kittle. And let's go into the draft and go get our offensive line there. Let's go get our depth there. So I'm trying to be as positive as possible, because if you're not, you're definitely confused by these moves, because the restructures don't look good, especially with the age of these players. We have voided years past 2026 and 2027 paying these guys. It's just not good for the books.